kill the worms. So this is more like purging them from the system. So it would need to be used in conjunction with something a little, maybe some wormwood, something a little more toxic to the actual worms. That's where the wormwood, Artemisia gets its, it can't be right. That's where the wormwood actually gets its name. It was useful for getting rid of worms. Sage will do the same thing, by the way, but it needs a much higher dose. In China, the bark is popular for dysentery and other bowel complaints. A smaller dose of the oleo resin produces similar results and keeps better than the bark. The vapors of the evaporating extract have a prostrating effect, as have the emanations from the blossoms. They act upon the patient. While the action upon the patients of powder or extract is disagreeable and nauseating, though they have been successfully used in dysentery and diarrhea, gonorrhea, leukorrhea, prolapsus of the anus, and also as a tainifuge. I'm going to have to look that word up. I do not remember. Yes, I don't know all the esoteric words. Tainifuge. Oh, okay. So, yeah, tainifuge actually means it's specifically good for getting rid of tapeworms. So, you think it'd be an easier way to convey that idea. That's why I do this. This is why I make herbalism simple, because a lot of these, the best herbals, you basically have to go through them with a medical dictionary just to know what the heck someone's talking about. The infusion may be given in sweetened orange flower or other aromatic water to lessen the bitterness and the resultant sickness, though it produces vomiting and great relaxation. It is stated not to be poisonous. It doesn't sound pleasant anyway. A tincture of the root bark has been successfully used in cardiac palpitation, asthma, and epilepsy. It has a strong antispasmodic effect, and I think that's probably one of the more beneficial uses of this tree. The action of the trees in malarial districts is considered to resemble that of the eucalyptus, so it's good for malarial conditions, probably more like the cramping and such that accompanies the fevers. That would make it useful for like COVID and such. COVID and malaria have a lot in common. King's American Dispensatory of 1898 tells us the bark of Alianthus has been employed by Roberts, Dugat, and others. Those were, known physicians of the time, both in the recent and dried state as a remedy for dysentery and diarrhea, also for gonorrhea, leukorrhea, prolapsus of the anus. 50 grams of the root bark are infused for a short time in 75 grams of hot water, then strained and administered in teaspoonful doses night and morning. So you're basically making a decoction or a tea, and then very small teaspoonful doses given twice a day. So it's very, very small amounts of this plant. It may be administered in sweetened orange-flavored water and some other aromatic. Let's see, Professor Hettet of the Toulon Naval School states, let's get through all that academic information, that the aqueous or alcoholic extract, which means either essentially a decoction or a tincture, will remove tapeworm. But he found its actions upon patients to be disagreeable and nauseating, so it made him feel sick. And he said it was some like that occasioned by tobacco upon young smokers. So you remember that first cigarette, it will make you puke, or that first, dip of chewing tobacco, whatever. It will make you at least feel like you're going to puke and be dizzy and all that. Let's see. Medical Journals, 1875, they were using it for tapeworms. They even said that though not poisonous, it would make you so nauseous that you would vomit, followed by a great relaxation and a death-like sickness. So not pleasant, but the symptoms do gradually pass away. I have not found any actual mortality caused by this plant. The successfully employed tincture of the root bark in cardiac palpitations, asthma, and epilepsy. Yeah, he has successfully employed the tincture in palpitation, asthma, and epilepsy. And in epilepsy in the late 1800s, it was actually gaining a reputation. Um, Basically, it's an antispasmodic. It could help prevent the epileptic seizures, at least help calm them. I mean, epilepsy has actually various causes, but it can be a very serious condition. And it's not one that I like to throw around a lot of saying this can help or that can help. But yes, antispasmodic herbs can help with the severity of seizures, if nothing else. Um, at least it was frequently used in that way, until about 1950, 1920 at least. He states that he has been pleased with it in putrid malignant typhoid with calming eruption, high temperature, small and extreme, pulse, small, extremely rapid, thirst, delirium, coma. So, I mean, that's pretty strong medicine, actually. Also used in homeopathic medicine, and probably a little bit easier to use that way with fewer side effects. Specific indication uses, at least as of 1898, were cardiac palpitation, spasmodic or epileptiform, meaning epileptic, muscular contraction, so the spasms caused by seizure. In modern use, let's get to plants for a future. Medicinal use of tree of heaven. The tree of heaven is not often used in Western herbal medicine, though it is more popular in the Orient. Various parts of the plant are used, though the bark is the most commonly used. However, it contains a glycoside that has not been fully researched and should be used with caution. The root and stem bark are antispasmodic, astringent, bitter, a cardiac depressant, diuretic, emetic, so gets rid of excess fluid and makes you puke if taken in a large enough dose. Febrifuge means it lowers fevers. Rubefacient means it can actually redden and warm the skin, like you might want to do if you had a sprain or arthritis, obviously. Liniment, vermifuge means it helps get rid of worms and parasites. The vermifuge properties do not act on roundworms or earthworms. Not sure how anyone would get earthworms inside of them. Now, in a survival situation, you can actually eat earthworms, so not sure where they're coming up with that, but roundworms, are parasitic. A nauseatingly bitter herb, it is used internally to treat malaria and fevers. It also slows the heart rate and relaxes spasms. It needs to be used under the supervision of a qualified practitioner since the bark readily causes vomiting. So if you take too much, you're going to puke. A lot of our more powerful herbs have that actually rather nice quality, meaning that it's hard to poison yourself on them, because if you take too much, you'll puke and it gets out of your system. In China, the bark is a popular remedy for dysentery and other complaints of the bowels. In one clinical trial, 81 out of 82 patients were cured of dysentery when they were given this herb. That's impressive. A tincture of the root bark has been used successfully in the treatment of cardiac palpitations, asthma, and epilepsy. Tree of Heaven is a folk remedy for asthma, cancer, diarrhea, dysentery, dysmenorrhea, dysuria, premature ejaculation even, epilepsy, eruption, fever, gonorrhea, leukorrhea, malaria. Wow. So basically any issue where there's a discharge, we'll just go with that. Sores, spasms, spermatorrhea, azostomatic, and it's good for the stomach. Probably very small doses. Tumors of the breast in China. Wet dreams, believe it or not. The bark is harvested in the spring and dried for later use. The leaves, bark, and trunk and roots are put into a wash to treat parasitic ulcers, itch, and eruptions. In Korea, the bark is used in the treatment of coughs, gastric, and internal upsets. The stem bark is an emmenagogue, meaning brings on menses. The leaves are antithelmintic, also means helps get rid of parasites. Astringent and deobstruent, which means it can help clear obstructions of the bowel and such. The fruit is used in the treatment of bloody stools and dysentery. They have also been used in the treatment of ophthalmic or eye diseases. Extracts from the plant are bactericidal. Bactericidal, good to know. The tree is used in homeopathic remedies for cancer. And, I never give recommendations for cancer, but, look into homeopathy. It's pretty powerful stuff, actually. And resin extracted from the roots and leaves is a revulsive or vesicant. Vesicant means that, remember how I said it would redden the skin? It will also kind of bring up the veins. Yeah. More modern use, Peterson Field Guide. My recommended Peterson Field Guide for Eastern and Central medicinal plants says 2 ounces of the bark infused in 1 quart of water given in teaspoonfuls for diarrhea, dysentery, leukorrhea, tapeworm. Used in traditional Chinese medicine, recently shown could contain at least 3 potential anti-malarial compounds. So very important, especially if COVID comes back around, or a mosquito-borne disease. Warning, large doses potentially poisonous, and can cause dermatitis if it says gardeners who cut the tree may suffer from rashes. So, just something to think about. And physician's desk reference for herbal medicine is what doctors use to tell you if your herbs are safe or if they're going to contraindicate with medicines. It says, an anti-malarial action is being tested in an in vitro trial period. The active agents also have an astringent, antipyretic, and antispasmodic properties. The unproven use, the African tree of heaven, is used for cramps, asthma, tachycardia, gonorrhea, epilepsy, tapeworm, or tapeworm infestation, and is increasingly used in the treatment of malaria. So, that weedy plant, that weedy tree that, like I said, I could spot thousands of them just driving from the mountains of North Carolina to the sandhills, especially in spring. That's when they really jump out at me. Really probably very good to have on hand in case we have another pandemic, which it seems like our betters, so they consider themselves, are intent on making sure happens. So, yes, tree of heaven. Dogwood would be a good one to have around. Oh, there's so many. A lot of these have anti-malarial properties, which tend to be good for many viral and feverish and respiratory conditions. So, anyway, y'all, I'm going to wrap this one up. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you'll check out my book. Love it if you buy it, That's what keeps me going. That's what pays the bills. And this one really was fun to share. Really the recipes and the foraging advice that I've really come up with on my own for the most part over 30 years or more. So it does really feel like I've kind of come full circle on some things. So I hope you'll enjoy it. The SPring Foraging Cookbook by Judson Carroll. So talk to you next week. Have a good one.
The information in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or treat any disease or condition. Nothing I say or write has been evaluated or approved by the FDA. I'm not a doctor. The U.S. government does not recognize the practice of herbal medicine, and there is no governing body regulating herbalists. Therefore, I'm really just a guy who studies herbs. I'm not offering any advice. I won't even claim that anything I write or say is accurate or true. I can tell you what herbs have been traditionally used for. I can tell you my own experience and if I believe an herb has helped me. I cannot nor would I tell you to do the same. If you use an herb anyone recommends, you are treating yourself. You take full responsibility for your health. Humans are individuals and no two are identical. What works for me may not work for you. You may have an allergy, a sensitivity, an underlying condition that no one else even shares and you don't even know about. Be careful with your health. By continuing to listen to my podcast or read my blog, you agree to be responsible for yourself, for your own research, make your own choices, and not to blame me for anything ever.